Is working out every day when you're in your 60s too much? Would it be more beneficial for your health, strength, and function to not work out as frequently? This is the exact question that we're going to be exploring on this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast. We're going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset, and the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and today we are exploring this question of how often should you be exercising, and as you're getting older, meaning the years are going by, should that change? Like how often you're exercising in your 20s and 30s and 40s? Should it be different as you get into your 50s and in your 60s? In fact, this specific question came up during a conversation that Julie was having with one of the parents of her friends. And this is a really relevant question for so many people. So we want to share with you our thoughts today.
Right. So the question came up about, is exercising every day too much? Right now, my friend's dad, he exercises every single day. He said when he was in his 20s, he was made fun of for being the scrawny kid, and he fell in love with the gym. So he has been lifting for 40 years, going to the gym.
Incredible. It's awesome.
I know, 40 years. But his big question was, he was like, is my body secretly breaking down because now I'm in my early 60s and I go to the gym every single day and I work out, and I keep feeling like, is the stuff in the magazines and stuff true that if I work out every single day, my body's going to break down? And I feel like it's a valid concern because a lot of things that we read in the media is trying to tell us to pull back from exercise, cut back from exercise, rest more. And be mindful that all of this advice is given always on top of not the Exercise for Life principles, right? Which is the way you stay safe so that you can continue exercising for the long haul. So anyways, keep that in mind. But that was the question of, if I'm exercising every day, am I secretly breaking down my body and I don't even realize it? Do I need to be taking days off? And he went to explain his exercise split to me. So that means, like, how do you divide up exercises over your week, if you're not familiar with that word? Basically, he kind of does like a bodybuilder type split. So it's very varied throughout the week. So one day he'll do like shoulders and abs, and the next day he'll do legs. So the real split doesn't matter. What matters is that he hits every body part at least once a week, and it's all spread out throughout the week. And he spends about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour at the gym. So I thought this was an awesome question to break down on the podcast, because you might be thinking the same thing, or you might be looking at your husband working out and you're like, maybe you should do less, because it is a real concern. And my first question to him was, how does your body feel? How do you feel?
That's a great question. And I also think this is an important topic of conversation, because a lot of times we have stories in our head about what we should or shouldn't do. You'll be like, okay, well, now that I'm such and such age, now I shouldn't be, exercising as much. And again, like you were saying, Julie, it's influenced by, what the media tells us and what we're reading and what we've learned throughout our entire life. But when we really break down whether or not you should be exercising every single day, there's a lot more to consider. So yeah, absolutely. The first number one thing is going to be, how does your body feel? Because to give like a blanket general answer that's going to be appropriate for everybody, it's going to ultimately not be valuable to anybody, because the real determining factor, the first thing that you need to consider is, hey, if your body's feeling well doing what you're doing, well, then from at least a surface level perspective, what you're doing for your body is okay. Meaning, like, if you were really doing something that was detrimental to your body would be letting you know. And it would be letting you know in different ways. One way it might be letting you know is you are chronically tight, okay? You have tightness that is throughout your body, and you can stretch, you can, massage, you can roll out, but that tightness always comes back. That is a sign that at some level you're doing too much for your body. Another sign that your body's going to tell you that you're doing too much for it is if you have this kind of chronic low-level fatigue. Like, you wake up in the morning and just like, just kind of like, it takes a little bit to kind of get going, getting out of bed. And then once you get out of bed, it's still like, oh, it's just kind of drudging along. And all throughout your day, it's just that it's not like something where it's like, okay, after, your first cup of coffee, then you're ready to go. It's just kind of like always there. This almost this feeling of feeling lethargic, throughout your day. It's just, always present. That can be a sign that what's going on from a workout perspective or just your life in general is just too much for your system, and your system is starting to get overly taxed.
That's right. And okay, Charlie, I know what what I talked about with my friend's dad, but I want to see if you're going to say the same thing, and I'm hoping we'll see. Anyways, so knowing what you know about him, which is what our listeners know about him, right? Just a regular dude, exercised for a long time, so he's probably learned a lot of stuff. He's not new, and he's exercising every day at the gym. If he was feeling like something was too much, he was having that tightness all over, or that lethargic feeling you were saying, the first thing you would have him change, would you change his frequency, or would you change something else?
No, I'd change how he was going about exercising, and that's the big thing. I think we have this definition in our head of like what exercise is and what qualifies as exercise, what how we go about quantifying exercise, and if we can shift that. Then there's a very clear path forward, and we'll talk about that. There's a very clear path forward to being able to exercise every single day. So if you're wondering, oh, am I doing too much? Like I actually want to be exercising, every single day, or as frequently as I am, but I'm starting to notice these symptoms. I would not say you need to cut back your frequency. I would say you need to change how you're going about exercising.
That's exactly what I told him. I said, hey, if you are feeling good doing 7 days, keep doing 7 days. If you're not, let's talk about the how. And we actually did troubleshoot like 2 different exercises, which we can get into. But the first thing that I would also change is the how. Because we always think too much means that I went for too long or I went too many days in a row. But we never think I did too much range. I wasn't respecting my body in the gym. Because what we find is that when you do follow the 4 Exercise for Life principles, when you exercise, you can keep repeating it because you don't have these excessive needs for recovery. You don't have days and days and days. And so here's the real kicker, though, which is why we would first not say cut back on days if you're feeling like your workouts are too much and you do want to exercise 7 days a week, is that your body, especially as you age, is highly adaptable to its environment. And so if you go from exercising 7 days a week to now 5 days a week, because that's a reasonable amount of days to rest, your body will become less conditioned because you're just exposing it to less. Well, most likely become less conditioned, especially if you're feeling awesome doing 7 days. Or if you go to 3 days or 2 days or 1 day a week, your body becomes less exposed to this movement thing, this challenge thing, this stimulate muscle thing. Right now, he's doing a really great job of regularly telling his body, hey, don't lose muscle. I'm going to use you all the time. Don't lose cardiovascular function. I'm going to use you all the time. So all those functions that improve when you regularly exercise, he's regularly telling his body to do. And by continuing to do it on a very regular basis every day, he's going to get the biggest benefit from that instead of cutting back for no reason.
Absolutely. And that's a really key point, is this idea of like, hey, your body's going to respond to the stimuli that you expose it to. And so right now, if you are accustomed to exercising 5, 6, 7 days a week, if you do start cutting back, and you're not necessarily changing how you're exercising, you're just changing your frequency, there's going to be a response, from your body to that. And oftentimes what we see, especially once people pass a certain period of their life, that response ends up being in the form of less strength, less mobility, less endurance, less energy, just all the things that you're actually wanting from your workouts. You're not getting that as much because you have cut back the frequency. Now, again, that is based on the assumption that you're not changing how you're exercising, you're just changing your volume, okay? So what things do you need to consider when you're thinking about how you're exercising? Well, as Julie talked about, we have our 4 Exercise for Life principles, which really are the keys to making sure that you can exercise as frequently as you would like to, and that each workout that you're doing is not only respectful to your body, but actually sets you up to come back and work out again the next day or whenever you are wanting to come back and work out, okay? And those 4 exercise for life principles are something that we've hammered home a lot in this podcast. We're not going to go in depth to them. You can definitely scroll back through the podcast archives and find all the details within there, but we also explain them very heavily and go through them within every workout within the Exercise for Life membership. So the first Exercise for Life principle that you need to be aware of is using your symptom-free full range of motion, okay? Using your symptom-free full range of motion. This means you're not trying to use as much motion as you possibly can, regardless if it's painful or, regardless if you're getting a stretch during it. You shouldn't be noticing no symptoms while you're doing the exercise, aside from the symptoms or the feelings, the sensations of your muscles squeezing and eventually your muscles fatiguing, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2 is to control your moving and non-moving segments. A lot of times this was discussed as form, okay? We don't like form because form implies either good or bad. And so we want you to understand that what you need to be doing with your exercise is matching the exercise to your body instead of trying to match your body to the exercise. And in order to make the exercise more specific for your body, based on the results that you're wanting, based on the areas of your body you're wanting to challenge, you need to make sure that the areas of your body that you're wanting to move are the only areas of your body that you're moving, which means all the other areas of your body that you're wanting to stay still are kept still the entire time you're doing the exercise. We call this controlling your moving and non-moving segments. Exercise for Life principle number 3 is to move slowly, okay? And again, this has to do with control, meaning doing the exercise at a speed or a tempo that you can stop at a moment's notice. Anytime you start to notice something going on within your body, you have the ability to stop and change how you're doing the exercise. You don't need to wait until the end of the rep or the end of the set or the end of the workout to realize that something has gone awry because of how you're doing the exercise. So whatever speed or tempo that is for you is great, but just understand that you still need to have that ability to stop at a moment's notice. And then Exercise for Life principle number 4 is to focus on squeezing your muscles while you're doing the exercise. You're not thinking about the weight moving up and down or your music or anything like that. You're just locked into what's happening with your body and focusing on squeezing your muscles. When you implement those 4 Exercise for Life principles, that will change how you're doing your exercises to not only stay safe while you're doing your exercise, but make sure that what you're doing for your exercise today actually sets you up to come back and work out again the next day.
Remember, these 4 Exercise for Life principles are the way that we found to be a very reproducible, predictable way to be able to go to the gym, get a great workout, and not have to have extensive recovery after, meaning that soreness, that achiness, that I need a day offness that happens that we believe to be this normal response from the gym. Well, it's normal if you're not exercising with these principles. And if you do use these principles, you're going to notice that you can go back to the gym so many more times without having that negative response. And remember, all of the health changes that happen when we go to the gym happen because we're squeezing our muscles. And so the more that we can do that in a safe, reproducible way throughout our week, the more health benefits we're going to get. And so continuing with a high frequency, meaning you're going regularly, versus dropping the frequency, we'd rather see you change how you exercise, start implementing the Exercise for Life principles, rather than change your frequency, keeping that frequency high. Because, a lot of people get a lot of other benefits from exercising that are not related to your health and not related to your muscles. I guess one related to your health but not muscles would be a lot of people really enjoy that mental health change that happens to the gym. It's really great to keep that routine of going to the gym. It's really great for a lot of people's hormonal status and mood status. So just keeping it in your routine and figuring out how to be smarter with it so that you can keep working hard with it.
Absolutely. And the other thing is when you are exercising every single day, it's no longer a decision of whether or not you're going to exercise. It's just there, which means it's one fewer decision you have to make throughout your day. So you wake up, you don't have to go through the whole, mental gymnastics of is this something I'm going to do? Do I want to do it? When can I fit it in? What am I going to wear? What am I going to do? Everything like that, right? It's just like part of your day, you're going to go do it, and it becomes so much easier to stay consistent with it when you don't have to try to make the decision every single day of whether or not you're going to do it. You just make the decision once of, yes, this is what I'm going to do, and then then it's just set. Like, it's like, okay, cool, like, I'm going to exercise today, I'm going to exercise tomorrow, I'm going to exercise the next day. And getting that into your frame of mind and like how you start to view your activities throughout the day, it all of a sudden becomes way easier to actually start exercising consistently versus if you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to try to exercise 3 times this week. Oh, I'm going to maybe get to the gym, 2 times. Or maybe it'll be a good week. I'll get to the gym 4 times. It's like there's nothing about even just how I was saying that, let alone the words that we're using in statements like that seems like, okay, yeah, you're actually going to exercise at all. No, like maybe you'll get a workout in if you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to exercise like 3 times this week. It's like, no. You make the decision that you're going to exercise, and then it becomes so much easier to actually go and get your workouts in, okay? Because what happens is once you make that decision that you're going to exercise consistently, all of a sudden, your mind starts seeing that as something that's like, okay, this is going to be in my schedule every single day, and it starts to filter the things you commit to, the things that you are, willing to do throughout your day and your week. It starts to say, okay, well, is that going to affect my ability to get my workouts in, throughout my week? Yes or no? And so when it comes to being consistent with your workouts, that is such a huge step in the right direction. We find that people are far more consistent with their workouts when they have the mindset of, this is something that I'm going to do every single day, versus when they try to just fit it in, again, like 2-3 times a week, something like that. The consistency drops as the frequency drops. And so when we're thinking about, our long-term health and our long-term well-being, having your frequency higher is going to be a really big thing as far as actually sticking with your workouts.
Absolutely, Charlie. We do want to see that this frequency is high, getting in your routine, making it non-negotiable in your schedule. I love all that type of language that you use because it really is true. Like when it's an option of whether you're going to work out or not, then a lot of times that's when we don't have time. But when it's not an option, that's when we somehow find time. So I love that idea. So one thing that he brought up that I think a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and beyond have are changes in their bodies from when they were 20 that they use as a reason to kill their frequency. And this is someone that wants to be frequent too. So we actually troubleshooted this while we were chatting, and he was like, wow, I did not think of it that way. I'm going to go about this next time. So a lot of people, as they age, have structural changes in their bodies that can sometimes be irritated, all the time to be irritated, or very, very occasionally be irritated, right? So for example, he has bone spurs in his elbows. Some people have bulging discs. Some people have arthritis in their hip. Whatever it is, you have a structural change in your body. And he was asking, well, what happens when I flare up my elbows? And he said, last month I took 2 weeks off, which I hated because I flared up my elbows and I didn't know what to do. So I just did cardio, which was better than nothing, but I would have rather continued to lift. So the first thing is that we reviewed the Exercise for Life principles. So my guess for what had happened, and I was dead on, was that he wasn't being mindful of his pain-free, symptom-free, stretch-free range of motion. He woke up with his system a little bit less than normal because he went to go work triceps and he really wanted to do the range he always did. But he said actually that day that it was feeling like he really had to push it to get to that last inch. He really had to launch the weight to get to that last inch. So I said, well, that was your body telling you to please stop. Not to stop doing triceps, but not to launch into that last piece of range. So I was teaching him the 4 Exercise for Life principles. He's like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. Like if I would have so a lot of times, and he's even in the health field, we don't realize that, hey, this is our body communicating to us, and it's just our job to listen to it. Because guess what? You're going to come do triceps next week. Sweet. And the next week. Great. But we don't want this tricep exercise to, push you out of the field for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We don't want this core exercise to make your back flare up and then you're out for a month. We don't want this leg strengthening exercise to make it so you're limping around on your hip and you can't exercise for the next month. You get it? So we never want one exercise, one workout to dismiss you from your workouts for the next month because of it is so critical that we're repeating our exposure to exercise. So he was explaining he took 2 weeks off of lifting because of this joint issue. And I think that's a normal response for most people. I have a flared up joint, that means I'm taking a break from exercise. I can't do what I want, so I'm taking a break from exercise. But I was telling him that, hey, actually when you're flared up, irritated, your body's mad, you're gonna get more benefit from continuing to squeeze and contract your muscles and exercise than if you were to rest. A lot of people think that rest is the answer. Yes, rest will help muscles recover, but what helps muscles recover faster is appropriate squeezing. So if you do have a flared up area, because as smart as we want to be, sometimes we make small mistakes. We always hope that the misstep is very tiny and it doesn't, take us out for months and months on end. But when you do have a flared up area, because maybe you have a structural issue just like many people in the population, then you want to make sure you're continuing to go to the gym and you're staying in your pain-free, symptom-free, stretch-free range of motion. Even if it doesn't look like the tricep exercise you want to be doing, it's half the range. You're like, is this even helping me? Or it's not the crunches that you want to be doing. It's a little tiny half range. Or it's not the type of squat that you want to do. You're on the leg press today. Whatever it is, whatever changes you're making, but you're staying within pain-free, symptom-free, stretch-free range of motion when you are exercising, especially if you have these structural changes. And the best way to continue to stay in that pain-free, symptom-free, stretch-free range of motion is to follow all 4 principles, because they all feed into each other, which again is making sure you're not cheating, you're keeping your moving parts moving, your non-moving parts not moving, you're moving slowly, and you're focusing on your muscle squeeze. So making sure you're using all 4 of those, and then doing what you can in the gym, not to push through the pain, not to stretch out the pain, not to get rid of the pain, but to say, hey, the best way for this to heal is for me to do things that are not painful, that are not stretchy, that are not zingy, but are still getting that nice muscle contraction. So what exercises can I still do, or can I change so that I can achieve those goals?
And really, this is a perfect segue into what we brought up earlier, which is redefining exercise. See, a lot of times when we ask people, well, what is exercise? They'll name off different activities, or they'll say, well, it's movement, or it's sweating, or it's, a whole bunch of different stuff, okay? But really, how we look at exercise and how we would encourage you to define exercise is challenging your muscles with the intent of improving the health and function of your body. Challenging your muscles with the intent of improving the health and function of your body. And why this is so important for this type of conversation is because when you think of the question of, should I be exercising every single day, all right? Challenging your muscles, we're not saying that there is a certain level of challenge or exertion or anything like that that needs to happen in order for it to qualify. But what does need to happen is you need to have the intent of improving the health and function of your body. So to build off your last point, Julie, if somebody does have something going on with a joint, or their elbows or their shoulders or their knees, and they're like, okay, well, I know that I should be exercising, but I don't know how to go about doing that. Okay, like you're saying, follow the 4 exercise for life principles, but also have the mindset that what you are doing for your workout is not trying to push your body, not trying to crush your body, not trying to, just highly fatigue your body. Instead, all you're trying to do with your workout is challenge your muscles with the intent of improving the health and function of your body. And so when something feels like it's awry, then great. That means that your body is in need of improving its health and function. And challenging your muscles is the road, the pathway to go about doing that, okay? And so the question of, well, should I be exercising when I have this thing that's going awry? Absolutely. Because challenging your muscles is the pathway, is the road to improving the health and function of your body. But you need to have that intent, and you need to have that lens that you're viewing your exercise through, okay? Which then leads to this last point. And this last point is have the mindset that your workout today needs to set you up to come back and work out again tomorrow, all right? So if there's anything that you are doing during your workout today that's compromising your ability to come back and work out again tomorrow, at that point, you need to change what you're doing, how you're doing it, or you need to stop your workout entirely, okay? As long as you can keep answering yes to the question of, is my workout today setting me up to come back and work out again tomorrow, then keep doing what you're doing and keep doing how you're doing it. But as soon as that changes from anything other than yes, even if it's I'm not sure or maybe or I don't know, it doesn't have to be like a hard no. It's definitely not setting me up. But if it's anything other than a definitive yes, then you need to start looking at changing how you're doing your exercise. You may need to change what you're doing as far as your exercise, and also consider your definition of exercise and what you are qualifying as exercise. Remember, exercise is challenging your muscles with the intent of improving the health and function of your body. So if you can keep those wrap-up points in mind, you keep the 4 Exercise for Life principles in mind, this entire conversation, everything that we touched on, you'll have a framework and a pathway by which you can exercise every single day and do so in a way that does improve the health, strength, and function of your body, not just over the next week or the next year, but really for as long as you want to keep doing it. This is exactly what we teach you to do within the Exercise for Life membership. We teach you what these 4 Exercise for Life principles are, the details that go into them, and how to apply them to every single one of your workouts. And it starts with what we call your success path. That's the first thing we recommend you going through within the Exercise for Life membership, so you can be equipped with the knowledge and the skills to be able to effectively apply the 4 Exercise for Life principles within each of your workouts. So if you want to give the Exercise for Life membership a try, for a limited time, we are giving away a 30-day free trial to the entire membership. All you have to do to get access to it is go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is not sure if they should start exercising more frequently or if they should keep up with their already, very consistent, very frequent exercise routine that they have? Share this episode with them so they can understand the different considerations they should be taking with their workouts to make sure their workouts are setting their body up to continue to feel well, not just for the next week or the next year, but for the foreseeable future. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to our podcast and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.